Hello, and thanks for joining us today. Welcome to our Google Hangouts on Air Learn with Google on real-time audience buying. We're excited to have you today and to cover dynamic remarketing and real-time bidding. Before we get started, we just want to go over a couple points. First, this Hangout is going to be recorded and posted to YouTube, so you can feel free to watch it afterwards or share it with friends. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to add them to the comments section below. And of course, we're always looking for feedback, so feel free to send that our way too. Okay, let's get started. I'm Brent Besson, the product manager for real-time bidding and display, and I'm here with Joe Larkin, our global product lead. Today, we want to walk you through the challenge of leveraging big data for marketing and how we're going to help you solve that problem at Google. We'll touch on how you can use dynamic remarketing as a means to cut through the noise and serve the right ad to the right user at the right time. And then we'll go a little bit deeper on how Conversion Optimizer works and how we can help you manage your bids at scale and ensure you're investing efficiently in online advertising. Finally, we'll wrap up the first half of the Hangout by showing you how you can turn these insights into action via flexible bidding strategies. Now, Joe is going to give you a quick overview of the online advertising problem.
Thanks, Brent. In today's world, there's a huge opportunity to connect with target customers, both new and existing, using just online data. In fact, over 90% of marketers believe that data is the most important feeder into their digital marketing strategy. And data is integrated into our everyday lives. Anytime that we interact with the online world, we generate signals. And this happens when we explore a site, search for a product. We do this with our mobile phones, desktops, tablets, each and every day. But the challenge that marketers face is how to leverage this huge set of data. And today, as Brent mentioned, we're going to focus specifically on leveraging better data to serve the right ad to the right user at the right time, and especially at the right price. So let's take an example of this. I've been looking to purchase a new Volkswagen. I've owned one in the past and really enjoyed the look and feel of it. It's a big purchase, so I want to do some research and make sure they have exactly what I'm looking for. Now, I know I want to get a hybrid model, and I want to make sure it's safe. So I went online and searched for Volkswagen hybrid models. A link to the Volkswagen turbocharged Jetta hybrid model came up, so I clicked it and was taken to the Volkswagen website. From there, I went on to check a few car review blogs, see what people had to say about the car's safety. Now, these actions I took, both searching, exploring review, and blogs, left a trail of data for Volkswagen and car dealerships to use. They were able to understand from my actions and from the data associated with those actions that I was interested in purchasing. So they took this opportunity to deliver relevant ads and give me a highly personalized shopping experience. Now we have the promise of precision. So what do I mean when we're talking about these signals? It means all these signals that help marketers understand who I am and what I want to buy. And the real breakthrough with all this information collected across the web is the ability to bake precision into your digital marketing. Precision is about going from just broadly identifying and targeting a specific demographic to knowing their preferences, their previous interactions with your business, and their current state of mind and where they are on the purchase funnel at that moment. Sophisticated technology allows precision to get better over time. So running continuous campaigns on the right network will keep you in touch with your best customers. You want your ads to be relevant, and you want your ads to be useful. And the question when it comes to digital marketing is, how do you use data insights to deliver relevant, personalized messages to your ideal customers in real time and at scale? You need to find the right audience at just the right time with just the right message and at the right price. And you need to do this thousands or millions of times every single day. So the key in translating this to digital marketing is to move from data to precision to scale. Now, we do this automatically for you via real-time audience buying. Dynamic marketing is a great example of real-time relevance with digital marketing. Now, based on the data you've collected on your audience, you'll be able to serve an automatically optimized ad that showcases the product you want that user to see when they're getting closer to converting. And this is a huge contrast to static remarketing that we've used for a long time, in which you're just delivering a very generic static creative to a large base of your audience at any time. If we think back to the initial example of my pursuit of a Volkswagen dealership would serve me an ad featuring a turbocharged Jetta hybrid in the perfect layout while I'm browsing a review or browsing safety sites on the car. They wouldn't want to serve me a generic image ad while I'm on a completely unrelated site. Now, leveraging dynamic marketing we've seen internally delivers around a 450% higher click-through rate by predicting which layout and which product will be most relevant to past visitors on your site. And Netshoes is a great example of a company that leveraged dynamic marketing to supercharge revenue. Netshoes is based in Brazil and is one of the largest sporting goods e-retailers in the world. When Netshoes wanted to expand their display business on Google, they invested in static remarketing. They then moved on to dynamic remarketing. And just moving from the static display remarketing allowed Netshoes to increase volume at double the ROI of their original display campaigns. And once they switched to dynamic, the company's ROI from remarketing doubled and overall revenue grew by 30 to 40%. So with that being said, I'll turn it back over to Brent to talk a little bit more about the real-time bidding piece.
Now, how can you increase your ROI at such a great extent? The answer is real-time bidding. First, let me introduce you to the bidding problem. If you're a traditional online advertiser, you probably think about online advertising in three main dimensions. You have the users that you want to target. Traditionally, you might look at things like demographics, age, gender, or maybe even affinities to different products. For example, if you were trying to sell a Volkswagen, you might target it as 30-something soccer moms. Of course, you also look at placement. This is like the website that you think the ad will show on. You might have a certain sense that sites like ESPN.com perform better or worse, but it's really hard to manage the long tail of all the millions of possible websites out there. And then finally, you have the creative and how this interacts with the users and the placement. Managing all this complexity is a time-intensive process that doesn't scale with the huge amounts of data that's available nowadays. And in fact, it's possible to slice and dice the data in so many different ways. With real-time bidding, we'll take all of these variables into account and even bid on variables that you can't manage, like time of day. So how does the bidding engine work? We leverage millions of variables at the time of each auction to predict the likelihood that the auction will yield a convert for your business. We'll look at data such as where the user is located, what time of day it is, what day of the week it is, where your ad would serve, and even how recently the user has visited your site. And we do all of this within 100 milliseconds. Our prediction is really only as powerful as the sample data that we use to drive that prediction. With Conversion Optimizer, we're learning across billions of auctions on Google Search and the Google Display Network to ensure we're considering sufficient data to make our predictions accurate. Additionally, Conversion Optimizer is by no means a static bid model. We're constantly testing new signals and new models to get better at predicting conversions. The solution to managing your bids thus becomes automated bidding. You're bidding intelligently based on all the data available while simultaneously bidding efficiently and at scale. There's no doubt that technology is changing the way media is bought and sold with real-time access to a wealth of data points and the technology to take advantage of all that data. It's not effective to buy media like you did a couple years ago. So much has changed to bring us to a constantly connected world today. To be successful, you have to focus on using data insights to reevaluate your marketing objectives and create flexible budgets that drive accountable financial value. Now let's take a look at how you can leverage this powerful engine to manage bids across your campaign in AdWords. Joe is going to walk you through this.
Thanks, Brent. So our solution for you is Flexible Bid Strategies, which is a new bidding infrastructure that we launched towards the end of last year. Now, instead of setting your automated bidding options through the campaign settings, you now have access to them through the shared library. This means that you're no longer tied to setting one strategy per campaign, and automated bidding now gives you the real-time bidding algorithm with the ability to set it to different ad groups, different keywords, cross campaigns, all at the same time. So there are three pillars to this strategy: flexibility, control, and reporting. The flexibility piece we touched on. With control, we're giving you more control over bids that you can set. So we're giving you bid floors and bid ceilings. And then we're also giving you aggregated roll-up reporting in one place. So you no longer have to click into multiple different campaigns or ad groups just to see how your target CPA or target ROAS strategy is doing. So now let's walk through the value add of flexibility. So in the old structure, you were tied to having one bid strategy in each campaign. So looking at this from a remarketing perspective, you might have your first campaign, which is shopping cart abandoners. And with this, these are very highly relevant users that are maybe close to converting, so you want as much control over them as possible. And all you can do is set a max CPC bid for this entire group. Then in your second campaign, you have a second group, slightly upper funnel, which are product viewers. They're not quite as close to converting. And you want to scale that, so you run target CPA to manage bids across this broader pool. And then lastly, in your third campaign, you have homepage visitors, which is a huge pool, and you just want to drive reach. So again, you're running max CPC. The drawback in this old world is that you're limited to one bid strategy per campaign. So when you split up your audiences like this, you're forced into using manual bidding for one group, automated bidding for the second group, then manual bidding for the third. This isn't scalable, and it's also not beneficial from a reporting sense. So with flexible bid strategies, we break down that barrier, and we give you the ability to set multiple strategies in each campaign. So looking at this same example, you can move return buyers into the same campaign as shopping cart demanders, and they can use the same budget. Then even within that campaign, you can still maintain control over the shopping cart managers and set max CPC bids, and also at the same time apply target CPA strategy to the return buyers. So this allows you a lot more flexibility in how you manage bids across different audience segments. And to get into flexible bid strategies, it lives in a slightly different UI. So instead of managing your bids through campaign settings, you would click into shared library on the left-hand side, and then into bid strategies. And once you're there, you'll have a giant button to create your first bid strategy. We'll chat a little bit more about the implementation side of bid strategies towards the end of the presentation. But now I'll throw it back to Brent to talk a little bit about what the flexible bid strategies are.
Thanks. Let's take a look at all the different types of bid strategies that rely on Conversion Optimizer and our real-time bidding engine. Enhanced CPC and Target CPA, the two bidding strategies on the left, are similar in that they both modify your bids to improve your chance of conversion. As we discussed earlier, we'll raise your bid for impressions that we think are more likely to convert and lower your bid for impressions that are less likely to convert. On the right, we have our newest strategy, Target Return on Ad Spend, which does the same as the other strategies, but also modifies your bid to take into account the likely value of conversions. Let's look at each of these strategies a bit more closely. With Enhanced CPC, you're still setting a max CPC bid, and then you're asking us to flex that bid based on your conversion data. We start at your max CPC bid, and then we raise or lower the bid based on the likelihood that this impression will convert for you. We'll only ever go up to 30% higher than your CPC bid, so we're operating within a range around the CPC bid that you give us. Target CPA, which most of you know as Conversion Optimizer, you tell us how much you want to pay for each conversion, and we'll bid anywhere within that range to maximize conversions. You're no longer worrying about the cost of each individual click, and instead, you're just worrying about the cost of your conversions. We bid for you in each auction to drive conversions within your target. And lastly, we now have our newest bid strategy, Target Return on Ad Spend, or ROAS for short. This differs in that we're not just predicting the likelihood of a conversion, but also predicting the value of that conversion, how much revenue that conversion will bring to your business. You're no longer setting a target CPA bid, but rather, in Target ROAS, you'll tell us how much revenue you want for every dollar you spend on AdWords. It's important to note that in order for us to do this, you need to pass us conversion values. Now let's do a little bit of a deep dive into Target Return on Ad Spend. As I mentioned, this is a relatively new strategy within the Flexible Bid Strategies UI that optimizes your bids to get you as much revenue as possible within a target return that you give us. Return on ad spend is calculated as the value of your conversions divided by your ad spend. Using US dollars as an example, it basically means how many dollars would you like to see as a return for every dollar that you spend on advertising. Now, why is this important? We all know that depending on you or your client's business model, not all conversions are worth the same amount. For instance, if you are a retail client, you really want more sales that result in higher shopping basket sizes and values so that you can get more revenue. Or if you're in the business of generating leads, there might be certain types of leads that you value more than others. For instance, if your site allows users to just enter an email or fill out an entire form, you probably want to value the full form leads more because they convert better. Or if you're in travel, perhaps you have leads for certain types of car rentals that are more valuable than, say, hotel or flight bookings. In the past, you've been able to use Conversion Optimizer or Target CPA bid strategies to maximize the value of conversions. With Target ROAS, you can now take it one step further and increase the value of your conversions. So AdWords will seek to get you more of the sales that will result in higher cart sizes or more of the types of leads that are really valuable for you and your client. Like all conversion-based automated bidding strategies, AdWords needs your conversion data in order to make more intelligent bidding decisions. You can share the conversion value data through AdWords conversion tracking or import your Google Analytics goals. Let's take a look at how Target ROAS actually works. Similar to other, let's do a quick overview of the type of performance gains you can likely see when using our different real-time bidding strategies. First, if you move from max CPC to target CPA and remarketing, we often see a 21% conversion uplift and a 14% cost per action decrease. If you move from target CPA to target ROAS, then we often see an incremental 10% return on ad spend. And finally, if you move from target CPA to target ROAS on dynamic remarketing, which Joe was talking about earlier, we see a 40% return on ad spend improvement at the same conversion volume. eBags is another great example of a company that put together a comprehensive solution with remarketing and real-time bidding. eBags is the world's largest retailer of bags and accessories. When they wanted to focus on greater efficiency and end-of-funnel strategies that close sales, they began running their own remarketing campaigns in 2013. They had initially started by running ads on CPA and paid an outside vendor to manage their bids for them. They wanted to see if they could move bid management in-house and look to target ROAS as a means to manage profitability and efficiency. The switch to target ROAS supercharged a system that was already working well for eBags. Since they begun running their own remarketing campaigns, their revenues increased between 10 and 15%. Additionally, they have seen a 25% increase in efficiency, and they spend significant less time running reports and manually optimizing bids. Great, now Joe is going to show you how to get started.
Thanks, Brent. So getting started with ROAS, the first and most important step is to get conversion tracking set up and to send us conversion values. And you can do this through AdWords conversion tracking or through Google Analytics. Now, once the conversion value is passing through correctly, you can start determining what kind of target ROAS bids you'd like to set, and then simply go into the shared library, create your first bid strategy, and apply it to the campaigns or ad groups that you'd like to. Now, I have to reemphasize that sharing conversion values is critical. A lot of you have implemented conversion tracking or importing goals from Google Analytics, but you're not actually giving us a revenue amount with those conversions. So whether it's a static conversion amount, such as a lead that always is worth $10 or $50, or it's a dynamic value like a shopping cart value, or typically what e-commerce clients would see, we need you to pass us that data so that Target ROAS has revenue to bid off of. And once you get that data passed to us, give it a few weeks to accrue, and then we'll intelligently bid based on the revenue data that you're passing us. And there are a lot of instructions on this in the AdWords Help Center, so you can just search for Target ROAS or for conversion tracking, and we'll give you detailed walkthroughs on how to both set up your tracking pixel, as well as how to set up your Target ROAS bid. So a couple of best practices as well, just to make sure you get started on the right foot. The first is the conversion threshold. So Brent mentioned when he was talking about the strategies that ideally we'd like you to have around 30 conversions before you get started on ROAS. The idea here is that we want to make sure that we have enough data to bid intelligently. So once you do start passing us those values, let them accrue for a few weeks. And typically, once your ad group or your campaign has 30 conversions, we have enough data to do a good enough job bidding. So you can wait and then set the target ROAS bid. Second is to set reasonable targets. So we want to make sure that when you move from whatever bid strategy you're on right now, whether it's max CPC or target CPA, into target ROAS, that you're setting a realistic bid. The best way to benchmark this is to look at your performance over the last 30 days. So if you're achieving a 10-to-1 return, we'd recommend setting a 10-to-1 target ROAS so that we give you realistic bids. And then if you want to raise or lower that over the next couple weeks, you can definitely do that. But what we don't want to have happen is for you to be achieving a 10-to-1 ROAS and tell our system that you need to double your profitability, because that'll be hard for us to hit right out of the gate. It's more of a gradual adjustment. Third is evaluating performance. So we need to make sure that you give the system enough time to adjust. So when we talk about evaluating performance, first is you need to let the bidding strategy run for at least a week before you start to do any kind of analysis. Second is that depending on how long your sales cycle is or your conversion delay, you might want to wait a little longer. So if it typically takes a full week to convert, you want to wait at least a couple weeks before you look at that data to try to understand whether or not this is working for you. You should see some bidding efficiency improvements right away, but in terms of analyzing whether or not this is working, definitely give it at least a couple weeks before you analyze the data. And the last piece, and this is more specific for search, but wanted to touch on it anyway, is that you do have the ability to set bid limits. So in the shared library, you can give us a max CPC that you'd be willing to pay or a minimum CPC, and we'll try to operate within that. So now let's do a quick look at how to actually implement this strategy, since we've talked about it for a little while. So once you log into AdWords, in the left-hand navigation menu, you'll have a link into the shared library, and then a link going directly into bid strategies. So go ahead and click that. Once you're in there, if you've already created any other bid strategy like Enhanced CPC or Target CPA, you'll see it in there. If you want to create your first ROAS strategy, just click the button that says Create New Bid Strategy, and this will bring you into the UI to allow you to select Target ROAS. So from the pull-down, at the very bottom is Target Return on Ad Spend, which is Target ROAS, and that's where we want to go. And step one is to name the strategy. So ideally, give it a name that's applicable. So if you're doing it specifically for cart abandoners, you might want to call it that. Or if you have a specific profitability goal in mind, name it that. That way it's easy for you to distinguish both from a reporting side as well as when you're applying it to the campaign. Second is to actually apply your target. And this is a little tricky. In this UI, we ask you for a percentage. When you're actually in the AdWords interface, the metric that you're looking at is value over cost, conversion value over cost, which is effectively advertising profit or return on ad spend. We give you that as a number as opposed to a percentage. So if you get $10 in revenue for every dollar in ad spend, we'll report that as 10.0. In this interface, when you're setting your bid, we need a percentage. That would be 1,000%. So just make sure that you are looking at the whole number in the campaign settings area or in the campaign reporting, and you're doing a percentage when you set the bid strategy. And lastly, if you are applying this to a search campaign, at the bottom, you can choose to set bid limits, and we'll use those on the search network. As soon as you've created the strategy, it will appear in the shared library. And I mentioned in the middle that we've done a little bit to aggregate reporting for you. So when you apply this strategy, we'll actually give you performance stats for how it's doing across anything that you apply it to. So if you create a 10-to-1 target ROAS strategy and you apply it to 3 different campaigns and 50 different ad groups, we'll actually give you roll-up reporting and tell you how it's doing across all of these campaigns and ad groups. It should simplify reporting and alleviate the need for you to have to click around in the UI to figure out how each campaign is performing. And if you are running this for individual ad groups, there's a slightly different way to do this. So when you're in your campaign and you have your list of ad groups, you'll have a little checkbox next to each ad groups. You can click the individual ad groups you'd like to apply it to, and then click the bid strategies pull down, and you'll be able to apply individual bid strategies to just the ad groups you've selected. So here you can see the pull down. As soon as you click bid strategies, it'll give you the option. You can use a default strategy like manual CPC, or you can choose a bid strategy that you've already created. So here we can see we have the target ROAS strategy we just created in the shared library, and you can click that to apply it to the individual ad group. And I mentioned reporting a few times. This starts to get a little complex if you have a large account, but as you create more and more strategies, you can always go to the shared library, and we'll give you roll-up reporting on how strategies are doing across campaigns and across ad groups. So that is the quick overview of target ROAS and dynamic marketing. A few questions we wanted to leave you with just to make sure we're giving you a little bit of homework. The first question is, are you tagging your site and your apps for remarketing? We spent the first half of the presentation talking about the value of audience data and the value of dynamic remarketing. So we want to make sure that you're tagged appropriately to collect the right data. Second is, if you are an online retailer, are you using a merchant center fee that would allow you to take advantage of retail dynamic remarketing, in which we're ingesting products directly from your merchant center fee? Third is, are you tracking all types of conversions on the site? So if you have leads, are you tracking leads? If you have sales, are you tracking sales? Are you tracking all the business actions that actually matter to you? Fourth, are you actually assigning values? So target ROAS depends on these conversion values. We need you to actually give us the revenue so we know which conversions mean more for your business. So make sure that you're giving us the right revenue numbers. And lastly, are you using all this data to unlock real-time bidding? We have a lot of different strategies like Brent talked about. We have enhanced CPC. We have target CPA if you just care about conversion volume, or we have target ROAS if you care about revenue and more about ROI and profitability. So
Great. Well, thank you for joining us today. As we mentioned, if you have any questions, please feel free to add them to the questions and in the comments section at the bottom of your screen, and we'll try to get back to you as soon as possible. Thanks.